Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 1IQ Sports Talk. Sterling here, coming at you with another review breakdown of the Steelers' Week 8 matchup against the New York Football Giants on Monday Night Football. This was a fun game to watch as usual. The Steelers, they've been getting better every week. A little stressful beforehand. There was like this team is, not without drama prior to kickoff. Apparently, Justin Fields was made inactive for the game. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So, that always, it seems we can't go into a game without some sort of quarterback controversy this year. But this Monday night, it's the Steelers' day. Always is. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not lost a Monday Night Football game since 1991 against this very New York Giants team. And so there was some concern there that, eventually that streak has to end. It's just a matter of when that's going to happen. Thankfully, that wasn't this week. The game, it appeared to start much better than it has in weeks past. The offense was moving the ball consistently. They were mixing up the plays, good mix of run, pass, moving the ball around. They were able to move it down the field. But they still struggled to find the end zone in the first half. The first drive marched all the way down, and it just stalled out with a face mask penalty by Broderick Jones. Knocked them back 15 yards, couldn't get that back, had to kick the field goal. The second drive, they march all the way down the field again and just barely miss a passing touchdown to Van Jefferson and have to settle yet again for a field goal. And then again on the third drive of the game, all the way down the field, consistently moving the ball well. And yet again, pass to George Pickens in the back of the end zone, and he got 1 foot down twice, but wasn't able to get 2 feet in bounds. It was a spectacular catch either way, but, it doesn't count. And again, have to settle for a field goal. And this trend is something that has to change. We can survive games against the Jets and the Giants and probably the Browns and some of these other bad teams by leaving points on the board there, but doing this against the Chiefs or the Ravens, or any of the really good teams that we have coming up, it's not going to fly to not be able to convert these drives to touchdowns instead of field goals. And so that is something that really needs to be addressed. The Giants, to their credit, in the first half, they were able to keep pace with the Steelers. It was a little sloppier for their offense, but they were still moving the ball down the field, and they matched every field goal we were able to kick with one of their own, to the point where we reached halftime in this game with a score of 9-9, which that bodes well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, this team turns it up on both sides of the ball in the second half, and that was evidenced here. After this game, what we've seen from the Steelers in the third quarter this season through 8 games, they have outscored their opponents 53-0 in the third quarter. They come out of the locker room and they are fired up, ready to go, and the defense just doesn't allow anything. And it was the same thing here. It was a little bit slow going to start that third quarter, but then near the end of the third quarter, big punt return, touchdown return by Calvin Austin, 73 yards, and yet again, special team strikes. This has been 4 weeks in a row now where it was, blocked punts and then a couple weeks of blocked field goals. And this week it turns into touchdowns with the punt return team able to take 173 yards and punch it in. That is great to see that the special teams is able to be putting points on the board. And then on the very next drive, we get it back, and the offense, again, moved the ball down the field convincingly and would cap it off with a 29-yard touchdown pass to, again, Calvin Austin. And so he had a big game this week. Calvin Austin, only 3 catches, but 54 total yards. That 1 touchdown. He added the 2 punt returns, one of them for nothing, but the other one, 73 yards and a touchdown. So big week for Calvin Austin. And it's sort of been like that the last couple weeks for this team. It's a new person always popping out, coming out of nowhere, and being the guy to take the reins, so to speak, and just lead, which is great to see. The Giants would try to fight back into it. They also got themselves a big TD run from Tracy. He had a great game. He was gashing us all over the field, just left and right, getting big runs against this defense. So that the Giants might have themselves something in that rookie Tracy they drafted, because he looked very good against this Steelers defense, which this year has been really good at stopping the run. But overall, the Steelers' defense was just too much for this Giants team to handle, and it showed as we got into the fourth quarter. The Giants were getting tired. They weren't able to protect Daniel Jones as much. This defense went off for, 4 sacks in this game. TJ Watt got 2, Alex Highsmith got 2. TJ Watt also forced a fumble and recovered one. That was in the fourth quarter, late. There was actually an exchange of fumbles between the two teams. Russell Wilson would lose a fumble trying to scramble away from a rush at one point, and then on the very next drive, TJ Watt would go out there and get that ball back by forcing a fumble from Daniel Jones and recovering it himself. And then very late in the game, Giants with the ball back, down 8, trying to make a push for it. And the pressure was just too much, and Daniel Jones finally threw a not very nice looking pass, which was luckily picked off by Beanie Bishop Jr. yet again. So that's 3 interceptions against the 2 New York teams for Beanie Bishop. He's been having an excellent 2 weeks in primetime here, and that effectively ends this game with a final score of 26-18 for Pittsburgh. As always, the Steelers, they would win the turnover battle this game and effectively tied the Giants for that time of possession. It was about a minute difference between the two, which is fairly insignificant. But yet again, Najee Harris runs the ball for over 100 yards this game for the 3rd week in a row. And on top of that, Jaylen Warren made himself present this week. He had 9 carries himself for an additional 46 yards. So over 150 yards on the ground for the Steelers, which is excellent for how this team likes to play with defense and not throwing the ball as much. That first half running the ball, Najee Harris was unstoppable until they reached the red zone on every drive. It's the red zone where the problems still reside for this team on offense, and it is something that I really hope gets resolved sooner than later. So, it was really good seeing this team able to move the ball confidently and consistently in that first half, but it's still so disappointing that they cannot get the touchdowns and we keep having to settle for field goals early in the game. I said it earlier, when we're up against the Chiefs in December, when we're playing the Bengals and the Ravens and the Eagles, this isn't going to cut it, because those teams know how to finish drives, and we are going to have to also be doing that to stay competitive with these top teams in the league. So hopefully the red zone and the early game sort of issues that this team is having, I really hope the coaching staff is addressing this during the bye week, and that we start seeing some changes coming up for the back half of the season, because I've talked about it for the 8 weeks up to this point. That back half of this season is absolute hell for the Steelers. It starts out with the Commanders, and then the Browns, the Bengals, and we just play all our division matchups and sprinkle the Eagles and Chiefs in there as well. It's going to be an absolute mess for sure. And as I mentioned at the start here, there was controversy, of course, around the quarterbacks leading up to the game. It's been Is it Justin Fields, Russell Wilson? We know it's Russell Wilson now, but Justin Fields had been the backup. And this week, shortly before game time, it was revealed that Justin Fields had been made inactive for the game, which was interesting because there's nothing on the injury report. So, watching him on the sideline, seeing what was going on, he had the earpiece in. He was still following along with the game. It was good to see Russell Wilson and Fields. They had several conversations throughout the game. It was obvious that Russ was in there mentoring him and, basically walking him through what the thought process was on that last drive, what he did, why he did it. And Justin Fields definitely seemed receptive to that. There was no sort of negative looks or anything like that I was seeing. Unfortunately, with him being inactive, I don't know if it really matters at this point, because that, to me, signals we may be seeing Justin Fields involved with a trade coming up here, since we're about 6 days out from the trade deadline now, so that's coming up quick. I wouldn't be surprised if even by the time I post this tomorrow morning, that's Wednesday morning, if something has come to light. As of now, when I'm recording Tuesday evening, I haven't seen anything, but having a healthy scratch like that, when we know Russell Wilson has had injury problems, and if he goes down, then you would like to have Justin Fields there to put in. It just screams to me that maybe this is sort of the end of the Justin Fields run. And as unfortunate as to see, because I do like Justin Fields, I would like to see him stay here and learn and grow and become our quarterback of the future. As it stands right now, I know we have a small sample size of Russell Wilson, only 8 quarters, but when you look at the way he runs this offense, we talk about how stats don't always tell the story, because the stat lines for these two guys has been fairly similar, other than Russell Wilson able to throw for touchdowns as opposed to Justin Fields running them in. Aside from that, just watching the way Russell Wilson runs the offense, it's much more confident, it's calmer, it's smooth, and it's not as panicky and frantic as it was with Justin Fields, unfortunately, for Justin. Fortunate for Steelers, because we now have a great quarterback that seems to be able to run this offense and lead this team to some convincing victories. And so I hope this isn't the end of the Justin Fields era, but if it is, I wish him the best of things wherever he lands, and hopefully he can continue to grow. As we saw this year, it was the best year Justin Fields has had so far. He was looking better than he had. It just wasn't good enough for Mike Tomlin, unfortunately. And as much grief as Tomlin took after 2 games, albeit against very bad New York teams, so I am holding my breath still, wondering what's going to happen when we start playing some of those good teams. At this point, it's really good to see that we've got some stability at quarterback and a little bit less of the controversy. It just remains to see what happens with Justin Fields over the next 6 to 7 days leading up to this trade deadline. And speaking of the bye week and the trade deadline looming, it's here, 6 days. Omar Khan, if he has any plans to add a wide receiver to this team, now is the time. Like, literally now, as I'm recording this, we're at Tuesday night, the bye week's underway. Now is the time when you should be going out there and getting a wide receiver if you want to add one to this team, so that we have the entirety of this bye week to integrate him into the system, get some plays in the playbook that will work with him, and allow that extra dimension of offense to be ready to go when we reach week 10 against the Washington Commanders. Like that is a very big key thing that needs to happen. I hope they don't wait right till deadline day. I hope they get something done tonight, tomorrow, like before the Thursday night game at the very latest. That way we can get that new fresh face in and figure out what is going to become of it beyond there. So anyway, we're here nearing the halfway point of the season, and the Pittsburgh Steelers going into their bye week, as I mentioned, at a record of 6-2, leading the AFC North. This is pretty much as good as it could have been. I think I had predicted them to have a slightly better record here because I knew how important it was. Going into the back half of this season is going to be rough. I said it already. We have all 6 of our divisional matchups, as well as games against the Washington Commanders, who are hot, sitting at 6-2 right now. We have the Philadelphia Eagles, who now are healthy and starting to get rolling with Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown. And we still have the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas Day, which at this point, they're sitting at 7-0. They're the only undefeated team left in the league right now. And this back half of the schedule is going to be so rough. Week 10 begins the true test to see what this team is. Are they going to be for real and able to make a legitimate playoff push? Or is this the same team we've seen for the last 5-6 years where they're going to make the playoffs, lose in the first round? How they perform in the back half of this season outside of the division is going to be so key in deciding and showing whether this team has any hope to win a playoff game, because the front end of this schedule was very soft, and I think it gave us a bit of a false sense of quality from this team. We know the defense is good. The defense is going to stand up to all of these teams that we have coming up. The question is whether the offense is going to be able to outperform and put enough points on the board to be competitive in those games. Only time will tell, and I cannot wait until week 10 and the start of what I hope is this team's push to a strong playoff run, finally breaking that playoff drought of no wins and maybe pushing our way into the picture of maybe being a conference contender and a Super Bowl contender. We'll see what happens going forward. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. A little bit longer this week because it was a good week, and I know I'm not going to be here next week, so I wanted to cover some of the bye week stuff that might happen. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. Leave me a comment down below if there's anything you have to say or anything you'd like me to talk about in the next video. I don't expect to be here next week, being that it is a bye week, so I won't have a Steelers review, but you know what? If there's any big trade moves or anything big that happens, you guys may see me here just doing a bit of a breakdown of that and what that means for this team. Otherwise, please check out our top 5 and bottom 5 video that we have coming out this week, as well as our Thursday night prediction before the Thursday night game drops. We will be doing our Sunday game predictions as well, as always, on Saturday. And then, as always, check out our podcast next week when it comes out. It's always fiery. It might be a little bit more intense this week as Brendan and his Bears are going through a bit of the growing pains. But thank you again, everybody, for coming. Hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.